Back with our next match of the day, match number 3 of 4 is going to be coming up, and it's going to be Alutemu versus Glory. And now this is where things start getting a little bit rough, and for more ways, or in more ways than one. And not only is this effectively a lower bracket match for the group, so the loser is out, the winner will continue on and fight Chonsu in the next match. But also these two players, both Japanese representatives and also practice partners, they're bringing the same lineup exactly. They're shielding the same deck.
Yeah.
They're banning the same deck. So at the end of this, one you basically is the thing where you knock out a friend from a tournament, which never feels great. But there's also a positive side to it where you go, well, if I can't go through, at least one of my friends can, which is the kind of the glass half full way to look at it. So we will see how it shakes out. Both players again bringing identical lineups. It's going to be this shaman, the druid, and then the paladin up against itself again.
Yeah, unsurprising to see the same shields and same bans. We have seen occasionally players go with identical lineups, but still end up shielding and banning different things. But it does feel like Alutemu and Glory here have very much prepared for this moment, because there was only so many different iterations of how it could have gone. Half the time, if you think of it as Glory having a 50% chance of winning his first game, they would end up facing each other in this first game. And Glory, even just tweeting out before we went live here with this third game that he is sad to end up having to go up against Alutemu, but it's friendly competition, and they're still going to give it absolutely everything they've got, and putting their faith, both players here, in this new Shaman deck. It is a different build from the one that I've been playing, to be perfectly honest, with the Hench Clan Hag, and of course Thing from Below tossed in there as well. It's a slightly less all-in version of the deck. It's not running these Sea Giants, I believe, of course, at the late end of the deck. But it does have a little bit more sustainability, I think, and more mid-gamey power, as opposed to all-in aggression and cheese that you can get at the start of the game.
Right, one thing I do like about this deck, and it has featured in a lot of these styles, is just the power that Vecina gives you.
Oh, yes.
If you don't know, it's a 4-mana 2/6 that gives all your minions +2 attack if you are overloaded. But the big question, I think, when the card got announced was when. Because you were overloaded on the turn you play Lightning Bolt, but you're also overloaded on the turn after.
Yeah.
And it works for both. So it means that Vecina is either, if it's played early and not removed, it's like almost just consistent +2 damage to your whole board, which is insane. Or even if you Lightning Bolt or something that a previous turn, there's always a threat that if your opponent has a board and Vecina just gets dropped down, boom, it's like a mini Bloodlust, which is very, very scary. So I think that is a really solid card, and is almost playing a third more flexible Bloodlust, which really helps the deck out. But for me, I will say what I said last time is I get why Hench Clan Hag is in there.
Me too.
It's a one-card army, which helps for cards like Evolve, of course. But for me, just the non-inclusion of the Soul of the Murloc lets the deck down, because it's such a good safety net of your board being cleared or traded away. Even in mirror matches where, well, if they value trade your board, but then 1/1s come back, you were going to be feeling pretty good about life anyway, because 1/1s in a deck that's built to be a token deck can trade up into big minions regardless. But anyway, before I harp on too much about the Shaman and the Mirror, we're going to be having a non-mirror match. Alutemu on the top with the Shaman, and Glory on the bottom with the Quest Druid.
Very nice starting hand here, though, for Alutemu. This is just wide board city he's got going on here with Desert Hare, Mogu, Flesh Shaper. Turn 4, he could just start exploding onto the board. This is absurd.
Really good pickup there, though, from Glory. He did have the choice between a Oasis Surger or a Starfall, but I think in this specific matchup, if you ever have the choice, you generally want to go Starfall, because the deck is so sort of wide and small based versus just having a couple of big minions. This deck does not run Former Champ, which is the general, Former Champ mutate, creates 2 pretty chunky minions most of the time. But this is not that deck, and that they are going to create a lot of 1 health, 2 health, maybe 3 health minions on the board.
Weird old turn here for Alutemu, where clearly he wants to go for Desert Hare, Mogu, mutate on the following turn all at once. But the problem is, if Glory doesn't develop anything on the following turn, the only way he would be able to have a 0-mana Mogu would be to have 7 of his own minions, which means it's not playable because he has full board space. And therefore, does he just go Hare this turn? Exactly.
Honestly, he's weak to exactly Innovate Swipe.
That's the only thing he's weak to.
Or double Innovate Starfall, right?
He loses the game if that happens, pretty much on the spot, I think it's fair to say.
He has Thunderhead and he still has Evolve. I don't think he loses the game. I think he's behind. But also your opponent's just, one, not floated mana, so delayed their quest, and two, used Innovate already, so it's going to make getting the quest done harder. Honestly, I think I would have played it if I was Alutemu. I don't think I could have stomached pressing Hero Power when I had Hair in hand, and it would have made the turn after game winning. Oh,
I think I would have too.
You would have played it?
Yes. With the exact card being played in Crystal Merchant, though, this is the disaster for Glory. We can see trade it in here, Mogu, trade in something else, Mogu, and then mutate.
Glory's just smiling.
This is insane.
He knows.
This is completely insane.
Maybe one of the most single powerful turns in Hearthstone I've ever seen. In terms of relative of mana cost.
This is turn 4!
Well,
what?
You don't beat that.
It's not even a particularly good outcome, and you still
don't
just
beat it.
never beat that.
Wow.
Kind of just a chuckle there from Glory. That's one of the things that makes it slightly more palatable, is when you're playing against a friend. When they get a hand like that, you can
just
be like,
okay.
Classic Alutemu there.
Classic. He's done that a million times. One thing I will say overall is that that turn was ridiculous.
Yes.
But that is not, or a turn that powerful, although maybe that's the extremes of it, but those are not uncommon turns. Which is why the deck is played and why it's so popular. There are just a couple of things. Maybe, on one hand, Druid needs to change.
Yeah.
Like maybe just not having an answer for 4 turns is just not good enough anymore, especially if Shaman continues to be played how it is. But also, again, it feels kind of bad. But if you sat there, rewound time, and worked out the maths or whatever, was there a world where you didn't need to play the Crystal Merchant? I don't know. It's probably just too good to not play, but it activated the silly levels of what happened that game. I don't know. It's interesting. I think I would have heard a little bit earlier, but if you're going to just draw and evolve like that, then who am I to question Alutemu?
Yeah, it was one of those games where, like we're seeing a little bit more and more, Glory was really nothing could have been done there. But if you were thinking, I want to do something like that, well, you can, with Evolve being in your collection now just for logging in with the Doom in the Tomb update. These disgusting Shaman turns can be yours to behold as well, as pretty much all Shaman decks are going for something similar to this. And this is why I said I'm not personally a fan of Thing from Below, because for Alutemu there, it wasn't even close to being a factor. Obviously, you're not going to do that anywhere near every game, but I want to try and do that every game, and the Thing from Below does not help me do that, whereas cards like Spirit of the Frog and the Soul of the Murloc definitely do help me do things like that.
Yeah, and honestly, I think what interests me the most about the submissions for playoffs is that, and I believe we'll see something very different at Global Finals, very different.
I agree.
Is that I think it was pretty easy to realize that Shaman was going to be like up here in terms of tier, right? Evolve, insane card.
Yep.
There's a reason Mutate is 1 less mana and can target one minion as opposed to a board full of minions. But I think if that was easy to understand, then again, I mentioned this to you earlier, but I don't know why there aren't more Warrior players, because you go against that deck with Brawls and with Warpaths, you just win most of the time, and even a Plague against the big sort of turns. And I feel like it's so good, especially with look at the 1-drops. Look at the early Warrior curve along with Warpaths and stuff. I think it's very powerful. But we don't see much Warrior, and it's the same with some of the more other maybe slower but control decks. Is if you're scared of Priest and Shaman, and they have to play one, well, they have to have the opportunity to play one of them most of the time, then why aren't we seeing more of these decks that can go toe-to-toe?
I think Warrior is such an interesting discussion point in this meta, because it's the kind of thing that requires a lot of testing, which maybe the players didn't have time to do, whilst also testing the other decks. Because my initial reaction is the same as yours. I think it probably would be good against Shaman, but I don't know that. Maybe the power of early mutates to cheese out Mogu and Desert Hairs is too strong for the Warrior to keep up with. Haven't tested it. Don't know.
I mean, maybe we just start to see Doomsayer coming back in decks because there's no devolve to break Doomsayers. So now that maybe that's what happens. Like I said, I think because it's such a short time for these players to submit lists with not a lot of time to practice, it means that what we're seeing now, or at least I think, versus what we see in Global Finals, is going to look quite different.
Even Bucharest as well, next week.
That's true,
Maybe
yeah,
we
you know
see a
what?
bunch of
You're right.
Warriors there. Hopefully not. It's possible.
Yeah, fingers crossed. So now Glory this time being on the Shaman means that he can get the early board versus Druid. And we'll see if it's just going to be tit for tat to a certain extent of just each player taking the same matchup but on opposite sides of the board.
Definitely feels like Glory has got, understatement of the century, a slightly less powerful start than what Alutemu laid down in the previous series, or previous game, sorry. But it is still very far from helpless.
A part of me liked Swipe that turn, I don't know. Maybe that's too crazy. Because Swipe is actually, honestly, not good versus this deck, right? Would you argue that Swipe's kind of poor?
No, I don't think I would make that argument.
Well, one evolve comes down, and what does Swipe kill? Like 1 minion? Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
With spell damage, we can talk, but I think in general, Swipe is just not that good.
It's a fair point. I think a lot of the time when they're going for the like later game, if they don't hit exactly evolve, they're very often sticking a bunch of 1/1s to go for Bloodlust in the form of Stormbringer or Desert Hares. I agree. If they hit evolve, nothing in the deck is that good, apart from like an upgraded Starfall.
Yeah. I just think using it to stop them getting an evolve is better than using it after the fact, right?
Fair
and even
enough.
if that's an evolve, or for example, a Mogu Mutate could have come down, or so on, you know. So like a wide board opens up so much more than just a Bloodlust for this deck.
I like this Swipe though.
Yeah,
100%
that's
for
fine.
Alutemu.
Yep. That's also fine. And obviously we could see that he got away with not swiping last turn.
Yeah.
He gained the steps towards the quest. He wasn't going to hit any huge problems in terms of dying or anything.
Yeah.
But now we see this this Hench Clan Hag and the refill potential. It'll be a 5-drop and 2 2-drops. And obviously the 3-drop and 2-drop for the board.
Yeah, I want to see the evolve too on this turn. This feels
has to.
more than good enough. Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeesh. That does not work out incredibly in the face of...
No.
Sorry, not 1, not 2, but 3 Starfalls. That's insane.
Just like that, Glory could just be out. Because this is not a deck that has great comeback potential, is it?
Yeah.
This Shaman list.
And not just out of this game, but out of Grandmasters Season 2.
Yeah.
No chance of making the global finals if he loses this series. Same for Alutemu.
Or he's now just hoping that there's not another Starfall. He just needs a board to stick, because if he sticks a board, Bloodlust wins him the game.
Yeah.
But can he stick a board? Our team is going to be saying a hard no.
Yeah, and this is what I mean about the swipe turns. Like, situations like this.
Clears again, right?
Yeah. Just Wrath Starfall, I think, is fine.
And the biggest thing I want to see from Alutemu now, don't be greedy. Don't be fancy. Just win the game.
Just win the
Use
game.
all of your removal for the rest of the game if you have to, but if this is the match that actually pushes you into, a potential chance at semis and so on, keeps you in the tournament, don't try and do anything like, oh, well, maybe if he doesn't have this, I can get away with not playing. No.
He's got an insane hand.
He has got more than enough to win the game, so win the game, and don't give Glory make Glory have to literally perform miracles to win this game.
Yeah.
There's Thing from Below, which now at this
Pretty
point
good hit. Pretty good hit.
does help, because it's a chunky minion. He's seen 2 Starfalls. I believe Alutemu played the 2 Starfalls that were natural.
Yeah.
So this will be a, air quotes, nice surprise for Glory if it comes to it. But even just the swipe, right? Like, we've seen swipe, Starfall, Starfall, swipe, Starfall. And then by that time, you have to imagine Zephyrus is going to be live. 'Cause that'll be 20 years in the future.
I can't even watch. It's too brutal.
Yeah, Glory's just... I'm sorry, mate. It's just one of those days, isn't it? Some matches of Hearthstone you were just not meant to win.
Yeah.
And this might be one of them. Now, I think, issue as old as time. with Shaman is Bloodlust being in your hand when you've got no minions. It is the
Yep.
worst. Like, Savage Roar is better. One, 'cause it's cheaper.
Way better.
But also because
Yeah.
you can attack with your hero. Bloodlust may as well not be a card.
Yeah. Even Stormbringer, you can just go for minion, even if it's just one minion, just hero power
Right.
Stormbringer
Right.
can win you the game.
It could be a Tyrion.
There you
You
go.
know, like,
yeah.
could be a deadly.
King Crush, who knows? Yeah.
Anything. Now though, remembering that old sequencing of getting the totems down first, so the thing from below is as cheap as possible.
A yellow bordered Earthenlight just to taunt him, to remind him that he could target Zephyrus if he wanted to get an elemental. But I don't think he's that far behind. I much prefer going for this lineup play.
I was considering it.
What elements are you looking for that wins the game?
A card.
Your
to
own
play.
Zephyrus into active Zephyrus? Maybe, I don't know.
Tiamat.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Though
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
I think it wasn't. I wouldn't have been upset at Glory if he did it on Zephyrus
Yeah.
to say, you know what,
This is
I'll
my
buff your
only out.
minion to generate a card that might win me the game sometimes. Well, that's a Desert Hair Bloodlust. Oh wait, what am I talking about? It doesn't have Rush.
Yeah.
Now imagine that.
Could
That'd be
do that.
sick. I was thinking of bees.
Well played.
It just seems like a slightly different bees to me now, the Desert Hair.
Shadows.
Well,
You win this.
Yeesh.
that's it. Glory knows he can't get there, and Glory, unfortunately, is the player to be knocked out of the group, at least for now. And that one, honestly, it's got to hurt for Glory because I don't think there's anything he could have done. The first game was the most one-sided game of Hearthstone I might have ever seen.
Yep.
And then obviously game 2, he put forward the threats, but with the constant actual just removal. Alutemu had 3 Starfalls and a swipe, and then 2 Oasis Surges. You're just not beating
was
it,
the
right?
dream.
You,
Yep.
you unless you evolve after a hair or something into literally the 3 to 4 best minions in the game, you're not going to beat or even keep up with it. So, unfortunately there for Glory, he is out, so he will not be joining us at the Global Finals, but Alutemu is still alive. We're going to go to a break while the players get ready for the next match. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.